very important to our industry. All aspects of it, especially what's been going on in the headline news lately. Yeah. Everywhere you look, it seems there's a crane accident somewhere. A great deal of people have gotten killed in the past 2 months in crane-related accidents. Not all of it been due to crane malfunction or crane fault. There's some human error in here. There's been Mother Nature in here. There's been a variety of things. But you still have to be conscious that these things are huge. They're big, they're unforgiving, they have no feelings whatsoever. You've got to give them a great deal of respect. You've got to listen to the crane operator. The crane operator says, this isn't a good idea, there's a reason for it. It's not because he's trying to make money for his employer, dragging out the job. Probably not because he's scared. Most of the time when an operator tells you this isn't a good idea, it comes from experience. Okay? You don't want to take what he's saying lightly. You want to look at it, think about it, discuss it. It could be something, it could be a question from ground conditions. It could be the wind could be blowing. It could be something he sees is not exactly right with the attachments, but the way the crane is attached to the load. Crane operators are not just crane operators, okay? They are, in a sense, interpreters. They've got to figure out what the person on the other end of the load is telling them by way of signals, whether it's audible through radios or the international hand signals. They also have to have a great deal of experience in rigging themselves. They have to be able to look at a load, if they can see it, and have a pretty good idea that that load is rigged securely and properly before they make a lift. So there's a lot of experience setting those operator controls. Okay? It's experience that everybody can pull from. These people are schooled in the ways and knowledge of the crane, and what the manufacturer tells them, to rules and regulations. Something I want you to write down. I've got a copy of it. I'm sorry that I didn't have time this morning to run them off to give you. But the ANSI B30.5 2007 standards. You go in there, you have the opportunity to read it. It gives you the roles and the responsibilities of everybody from the owner of the crane to the owner of the project to the rigger's responsibilities, the person that's in charge of the lift, their responsibilities, to the crane operator. Everybody involved, their responsibilities are outlined.
How about the ANSI number one more time?
B30.5, the 2007 edition. It's expanded. Next thing I want to tell you that it's kind of held up just a little bit in the regulatory end of things, but the CDAC consensus, Crane and Derrick Advisory Council consensus. It's been 119 pages, I believe it is where an advisory council got together and have gone to Federal Ocean to make it easier for people to understand the crane regulations. You think about it. For an everyday construction crane, you need to know 1910 180 standards, general industry standards, which apply to mobile and construction cranes for inspection aspects. 1926 550, that's your construction standards. Okay, power crane and shuttle standard, book number 2 through 4. Okay, those apply to cranes. Now you got your ANSI and your ASME standards. All these. This is where you've got to go to get this information to know what rules and regulations. Then you get state-specific rules. Virginia has her own state plan here. Fortunately for us, we pretty much go by what the federal says. You step up to Maryland. Maryland is a state plan state. They have their own rules and regulations that pertain to cranes. So when you venture to other locations, other states, you've got to know what they're talking about, what their regulations. But all this other information is trying to be compiled into one nice, neat document. Okay, so it's user-friendly, if you will, so you don't have to run from book to book to book, or just try to commit it to all of them. I've been in this business the 8th. Next week will be 30 years. I've been in the International Union of Operating Engineers for 30 years. I am a journeyman crane operator by trade. 4-year apprenticeship as we go. The Commissioner of Labor, C. Ray Davenport, is sitting in the back of this class. He was the head of our International Union of Operating Engineers at one time. He has stepped up to higher things. Good for him. He's worked his way up from a crane operator where he is now. I don't necessarily say I know all the answers. I've got a pretty good idea what's going on with cranes. They've been my life. They're my blood. This is what I live and breathe day in and day out. I said, I worked my way up from starting out literally as an iron worker on steel. I said, this is too cold in the winter. That crane operator looks pretty comfy in that heated cabin. Made that transition right on over, changed career paths to where I'm at now, Corporate Safety Director for W.O. Grubb. It's one of the largest privately held crane rental steel erection companies in the United States. I don't know it all, but I've got a pretty good idea what's going on. And if any time y'all have questions through this presentation, this is interactive. We play off each other. Got a question? Ask it. Don't be bashful. With that, we'll proceed on. One thing, throw it out into the audience. What is the biggest cause of cranes being upset or turned over? There's one thing primarily, just about one thing only. Can anybody tell me what that one thing is? Loss of stability. Loss of stability. That could be either, as I heard of it, being overloaded, to cause that machine to tip, lose stability. It could be ground conditions, an outrigger sink, lose stability. The wind causing issues to create an imbalance or loss of stability. That's one of the biggest things is stability. If a crane stays stable, either by virtue of keeping its tracks in the ground, keeping its outriggers on the ground, or keeping its tower vertical, if it's a T-crane, keeping it airborne, then you have no problems. Once you start getting unstable, that's when you're going to have problems. What causes crane accidents? Instability, unsecured load, low capacity, ground too soft, or not level. Lack of communication. The point of operation is the distance from crane operator or not full view of the operator. Now, the operator is in charge of a lot of things, including the ability to stop the load from being lifted. Okay? He's in the control. But working in the blind, he can't see what's going on. He's at the mercy of the person that's doing the rigging or the other end of the radio. That person's got to be knowledgeable in the field in which they're working. Rigging, hooking on, whatever it is. Pipefitters, carpenters, ironworkers, whatever it is. You've got to be knowledgeable in how to manipulate this crane to get it to do what you want it to do and still have safe operation. Lack of training. That's one of the biggest things. Lack of training. There's a new certification going around that's being talked about. And that's going to be a rigger certification and a hand signal person certification. The National Commission for Certification of Crane Operators is one that's in the leading edge of this by already incorporating or starting up a program for this. It'll be a program for certified riggers and certified signal persons. The only person that I know of in all the years that's really, if you want to call it certified, is an ironworker. A union-trained ironworker with some part of our card in his pocket is about the only qualified rigger by virtue of carrying a card because there's really no certification rank. There's a lot of companies that will take your money and say, yeah, you're certified, and teach you a good knowledge. But by working in the craft, by doing this, is where we go. Inadequate maintenance or inspection can cause crane accidents as well. Poorly maintained equipment can have failures of a variety of things. Crane operation hazards. Improper load rating. That's a crane that is equipped with another crane's load chart. Okay? I got this crane on this site. I don't have a load chart for whatever reason. I got so I can handle this crane. Like office people, they don't know what you got on job site. They send you wrong size, wrong load chart, put in the crane. Tomorrow you got another operator, he goes in there, looks at this load chart, pulls that, says, okay, well, I'm good. I got, I'm on a 60-ton crane. Yesterday was a 40-ton crane, by the way. I got a 60-ton load chart. I can pick this much weight, go out there, turn it over, just because you got the wrong load chart. You got to have load charts with serial numbers that match the crane. That's how you know you're right. Not using hand signals. An operator can get a lot of misinterpretation by thinking he knows what you want to do, but a good operator is not going to do anything that doesn't get a hand signal. But that's where you get the untrained people. They think they know what you got to do, they think they know where it's going. You cause accidents, you get people hurt, people not being aware that the crane's moving. Unguarded parts. Elizabeth talked about that earlier. Unguarded swing radius. The swing radius, the tail swing of the crane. Once it's set up, whether it's a crawler crane, mobile truck crane, latch boom truck crane, the tail swing area where the counterweights are have to be protected, have to keep people out of it. There was, unfortunately, a death out in Las Vegas last week. I don't necessarily know if it was an unprotected area. I understand it was the person working on the crane who got caught between the counterweights and the track of the crane. So Sickland was killed. But you have to know, even if you're an integral part, an operator or an owner, you're working on the crane, you still got to be aware of the dangers on these cranes, because they will hurt you. Working too close to power lines. There again, Elizabeth spoke about that as well. That's another part that's in the new CDAC consensus coming out that will change. They want to drive that out to 20 feet. Right now, the bare minimum, 50,000 volts is 10 feet. As you go up, it graduates. Back in the old days, you could count the number of insulator links and tell how much voltage will run that line and do your calculation on that. Now, you can't really go on that now because of modern technology. The bare minimum is 10 feet. When you go in your ocean manual, most crane operators know this, but you try to find your voltage. You better know your voltage. Then you go according to how many feet you got to be away from that. Power line contact, over the last 14 years, I've done a lot of expert witness testimony in crane accidents. The majority of those have been electrocutions, people getting into power lines. I've done this from Los Angeles to Maine to Florida. People getting cranes into power lines. They're there. They were there when you came in. They're going to be there when you're gone. You've got to know where they are. And there are provisions in 1926-550 to tell you how to work safely around power lines. ANSI standards have those as well. Read them. Get knowledgeable about it. Stay away from power lines. Improper exhaust systems if you're walking inside. We all know what carbon monoxide poisoning is. Shattered windows. You can't see clearly. Same as the automobile. The law prescribes you've got to have glass that you can see through. Safety glass, overhead and front. No steps, guardrails, or walkways. A lot of manufacturers have addressed this with a lot of handholds, a lot of steps, a lot of walkways with protection on their cranes, because all this stuff comes from what? Litigation. That's where a lot of safety rules come from. You go into any crane manufacturer's safety book, most of all those rules have come from litigation. Somebody's gotten hurt, we'll make a rule. Somebody gets hurt, we'll make another rule. That's where rules come from injuries, people getting hurt. No boom angle indicator. If you don't know what angle your boom is, don't know what your radius is, you can't tell where that runs in your load chart. Okay? There's really three critical points you need to make a safe lift with a crane. Okay? You need to know your boom length, you need to know your radius. Radius and boom length will give you an angle. So we'll go ahead and pick the fourth one, and you really need to know how much load weighs. That'd be a big benefit. A lot of people, unfortunately, these time of day say, your crane's equipped with a computer. Once you hook onto this load, you can tell us what it weighs. No, that don't work that way. You need to tell whatever crane provider that you've ridden from, you need to tell them at the onset what the weight is.